The United States Navy spends roughly $60 billion annually to maintain and support its fleet of about 480 ships. Sounds like a lot, right? How much is a U.S. aircraft carrier worth? Today we'll look at maintaining a $15 billion U.S. aircraft carrier operational. Aircraft carriers have progressed from launching canvas-winged biplanes to fearsome fighter jets, capable of attacking targets hundreds of miles distant in less than a century. Despite significant changes in ship design over the last century, aircraft carriers remained the solution to one of the most difficult challenges for any navy. How do you project power by sea? The USS Gerald R. Ford, the first carrier of the Ford class, cost more to build than any other carrier in history. The cost of the aircraft carrier is estimated by the Congressional Research Service to be $15 billion, making it the most costly aircraft carrier to date and perhaps the most expensive ship ever built. This aircraft's total development program likely cost close to $37 billion, including expenses for research and development.
So what should our adversaries know about the Gerald R. Ford? One of the many missions of the ship is deterrence. So when the adversaries have an aircraft carrier like this patrol their waters, they know that the United States is serious.
The USS Gerald R. Ford can house 6,000 people more than 75 aircrafts as well. It has RIM-162 Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, airframe missiles or RAMs, and Phalanx Close-in Weapon Systems or CIWS, and is powered by 2 nuclear reactors, providing a 250% increase in electrical capacity over the Nimitz class. In March 2022, the USS Gerald R. Ford finished its initial scheduled incremental availability. The 6-month PIA includes maintenance and modernization work to give the carrier the most recent updates. The ships have a 100,000 total load displacement, and their 78-meter-long flight decks are equipped with electromagnetic aircraft launch systems and cutting-edge arresting gear. It's rather impressive about the USS Gerald R. Ford. Do you agree?
So I've been on board about 10 months. Since I've been on board, we've been working really hard.
There are 11 nuclear-powered subcarriers in the American Navy. The USS Navy only has 9 air wings since one of the carriers is constantly being refitted and only a few are ever deployed. There are 6,590 military men on average assigned to each carrier. A supercarrier typically spends $1.18 billion per year on operating expenses. A carrier air wing usually has 4,860 employees and an annual operating budget of $910 million. In consideration of all this, a carrier's yearly operational expense is $2.1 billion. Since an aircraft carrier alone has a limited capacity for self-defense, it depends on other kinds of ships for missiles, aircraft, and submarine protection. A cruiser, at least 2 destroyers, and perhaps a supply ship or a submarine from a carrier strike group. A carrier strike group's operational expenses range from $6 million to $8 million daily, depending on how it is configured. Operating 11 carriers and 9 air wings costs $21 billion a year in total. So this is how some of our tax money is spent on the United States Navy. So do you approve of how your tax dollars are being spent on the Navy? The design and construction of an aircraft carrier costs several $billion. For routine upkeep and to keep up to date with technology, the USS Gerald R. Ford needs frequent maintenance and repair. How long and how much does it cost to refit this enormous ship? The nuclear-powered aircraft carrier requires mid-life refueling as well as complex maintenance. This challenging project entails replacing the nuclear fuel, regular maintenance, and system updates for the entire ship. The carriers also use a 32-month deployment cycle, which allows for shorter planned maintenance and repair periods of 6 months. The warships are serviced and overhauled at the Norfolk Navy Shipyard and the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard, which are located on both coastlines of the United States. The ship enters the dry dock, which is subsequently sealed off from the rest of the world. Once enclosed, the water is drained, exposing the whole vessel sitting on pre-positioned kneel blocks. Refueling complex overhaul, or RCOG, is a once-in-a-carrier lifetime maintenance phase. The ship has a lifespan of roughly 25 years, owing to its overall design and capacity. However, the beauty of a ARCO is that it's this gift of an additional 25 years of service, but it obviously requires hard effort to achieve. The entire overhaul process is carefully planned and calculated because it involves a lot of time and resources.
It keeps the life of the ship longer. It sustains our life of the ship for the carriers.
So what happens following the repair? When the repair or overhaul is finished, the dry dock is refilled with water so that the vessel may be refloated and moved from the dock. The aircraft carrier is ready for deployment and will house around 6,000 sailors on this completely overhauled, rebuilt and modernized warship. A career aboard an aircraft carrier can be both exciting and terrifying. Approximately 2,500 people work with the aircraft that fly from the aircraft carrier, whether on the flight deck or in one of the 3 hangar bays below deck. The rest of the crew works around the clock below the flight deck with little time to relax in the warm sun. Their living situation provides neither comfort nor privacy. It doesn't need a sizable engine room because the aircraft carrier is nuclear powered. This enables it to provide its occupants services like a grocery store and barbershop that are not accessible aboard other Navy fleets. In order to raise morale on board, the flight deck frequently arranges social gatherings and events. The same fate awaits those on board the aircraft carrier and the destroyer warships of the U.S. Navy. The crew of the multi-mission surface combat ship can quickly adjust to changing situations and tasks and is capable of anti-air and anti-service warfare. The 9,000-ton destroyer are around 500 feet long and 59 feet broad, with relatively limited room for the 300 men and 30 commanders on board. The berthing room is made up of bunk beds piled on 3 high in the compact, constrained space. The staff is expected to complete these jobs at all times in order to protect their health and well-being. Those aboard destroyer ships have access to a modest gym where they may perform physical workouts. They can utilize the helicopter landing deck for their activities when there is no air operating. One of the most difficult aspects of deployment for the U.S. Navy crew is that they have no control over the weather. The aircraft carrier and other large ships might not be affected by the rough waves. However, the crews of destroyer ships may be more prone to motion sickness, particularly in rough seas and bad weather. This difficult circumstance creates close bonds of friendship and solidarity among shipmates, living in conditions that are hardly comfortable, working long hours, and during deployment. Working in a high-risk environment and other factors do not create compelling career prospects. It takes a really exceptional person to dedicate their life to overcoming these obstacles so that others can live. That's all for today's video. Will you take on such a task? Let us know in the comments section below. If you're new to the channel, do subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more.